Peace and love. Peace and love.
Hi, Rich. This is your dad.
It's Sunday. I know. It's typically not the day we decide to go live over here for We Got a Case, but the computer is packed full of TPOs we need to get to and get cleared out. As you can see, this one right here, this is even before Judge Dew got his hair cut. So we're going to go back in time about, I want to say 9 days ago. We're going to cover this case. It's about an hour and a half long, so we're going to settle in. We'll have a good time. Everybody play nice in the chat, because if you don't play nice, are you really playing? Let's go.
Is that the petitioner?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, so they'll present their testimony in the form of the petitioner. After they have finished testifying, you'll have a chance to suggest questions if you believe there are questions you wish the court to ask the other party. If I think they're relevant and helpful, then I will do so. And then after they have rested, you have a choice as to whether you present evidence or testimony. And then at that point, I will make a ruling on the case. Understand that it is their burden of proof and that they go first as a result of that. Understand that the time for questions is the time for questions, and the time for statements is the time for statements. And the way that this is structured, in many ways, feels backwards to our participants, because what would make the most sense in some cases would be to make your statement in response to their statement. And so just choose your questions carefully, understanding that the court already knows the two of you don't agree on the facts, or else we wouldn't be having the hearing in the first place. So we will do the best we can to move through that. And there may be times where I have additional questions that I either have to interrupt with or jump in with at a certain point.
I'm glad to be here with you guys.
We have a courtroom inside the DeKalb County Jail, and we have very limited access to that courtroom, and it is at 4:00 on Tuesday. And so right before I brought you in,
like this video,
I sent
thank you.
the parties on a jail case to go talk to our court facilitator, Mr.
This
Burke.
guy loves Prince.
If he comes back with an announcement, I may need to pause the hearing for a few moments, talk to those parties so that the deputies can be released to conduct other duties at the jail, and then we'll resume with your hearing as soon as we're able. If they need a full hearing, then they will have to wait for us to finish. So if we have to pause, it won't be more than 5 to 7 minutes ideally. So with all of that, Ms. Jordan, you can begin.
Thank you, Judge. And I think this one's straightforward. Sometimes I'll do an opening statement to clarify any of the background facts. I think we can just skip it and go into testimony unless the court wants me to clarify anything, like relationship between the parties, anything like that.
No, you can go on in. You can swear your witness in and begin.
Okay, thank you, Judge. All right, I'm going to call Ms. Reynolds, the petitioner in the case, as our only witness. Ms. Reynolds, you can go ahead and unmute yourself. All right, and then I'm going to swear you in. So can you just raise your right hand? Okay. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth under penalty of perjury?
I do.
Okay, you can put your hand down. All right. So I'm just going to get through some of the background stuff. Is the respondent in this case, is that someone you had a romantic relationship with at some point?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And did the two of you live together?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And did you live together up until the point that the protective order was served?
We lived together up until he finally moved his things out last Sunday.
Okay. Thank you. About how long had the two of you been dating?
A little over a year.
And how long had the two of you been living in the same residence?
A matter of months. 3 months. Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, let's just jump into the meat of this case. You list in your petition an incident that happened on New Year's Eve, this very past New Year's Eve.
She's lucky she's in this court.
Just walk the court.
She get yelled at for that hat.
Through what happened on that day.
Yes. So I live on Glenwood in East Atlanta Village, and I'm within walking distance of Flatiron, and I had a few of my girlfriends invite me to go out to Flatiron. So I did. And at Flatiron, we, had a few beers, no more than 3. I had about 2 or 3, and it was raining that night. So I asked the bartender for some paper towels. They were actually kind of decent paper towels. They weren't your typical bar towels. So I put them in my pocket because I knew I'd have to use them for my glasses again.
Okay.
I got into a motorcycle accident in March 2019 where I lost my leg and endured a traumatic brain injury. And I also
hang on a second. I think there was an objection. So
reference to her prior injuries.
That's overruled. Without knowing where that might be going, I can't say that that's irrelevant yet. So she can continue.
Yeah.
I struggle. So my bladder also exploded in the motorcycle accident, and I struggle with incontinence now. I was waiting to use the restroom. I was waiting in line, couldn't hold it. My bladder released. I had to come home and change clothes. I had to change my pants. And then we were going to go over to my girlfriend's house afterwards and just hang out and giggle, whatever. And so I come home and I take everything out of my pockets. I put it on my bed. I have my beer can. I put it on my nightstand. And Jose came home madder than hell about something, and just barged into my room, sees the beer can, immediately starts telling me that I am just hammered and that I am highly intoxicated. Goes over to my bed, sees that I have cigarettes on my bed, starts accusing me of quote unquote verbatim sucking dick for cigarettes. He sees
Let me go ahead and just tell everybody I apologize for any foul language that maybe occurred in this. I have not viewed this myself already. It's just, yeah, I didn't expect that. And good to see Kitchen Court Cases here. How are you doing? Hallelujah, by the way, time served. Thank you for the dono. And on the Monetary Monorail, it's a Sunday edition. Let's get back into that.
a little bit of cash I have on the bed from my dad giving me some Christmas money, and he starts, accusing me of hiding money from him, even though I had given him every little bit that I did make to help pay for bills. And he picks up the paper towels. He starts accusing me of being on cocaine and starts ravaging through the paper towels just viciously. And so I'm not feeling good. He obviously, with him being in this rage, I'm not reacting to it very well. And so I tell him to leave my room. He doesn't listen. And so I raise my voice, and I eventually start having a panic attack, start screaming and crying and telling him to leave my room. He's obstructing my pathway out of my bedroom. I'm in the midst of a panic attack, and I'm just flailing, just trying to get him out and get my space. And he cornered me. And
let me stop you right there. About how long were you cornered in your room without being able to leave?
I was cornered what seems like forever, but it was probably factually about 3 to 5 minutes.
Okay.
Man.
And during this time, was the respondent's behavior intimidating to you?
Incredibly intimidating. He when he cornered me, he squared up his shoulders. He bowed out his elbows. He took on a fighting stance. And
by that, where were his hands? Were his fists and balls, or were they what do you mean by fighting stance?
So his fists weren't clenched, but they were in a what we call a working throw punch. We are professional wrestlers, and so he
professional wrestlers. Oh, this is right up my alley. I love professional wrestling. Again, already a lot of accusations, a lot of stuff. This poor lady's lost her leg. She's had some incontinence now from her accident and things like that. And he's accusing her of all kinds of things, even cocaine.
Cocaine.
I can't believe that.
Down to the ground, cocaine.
Good to see everybody. Please like this video. Do us a huge favor. Sarge, good to see you. Good to see everybody.
Naturally goes to this working hand, and his elbows were out and his shoulders were back. His chin was up. He 100% looked like I was genuinely afraid for my safety. I did not think, and there was no way I would have been able to physically defend myself. Not only am I, 100 pounds and he's 300 pounds, but I'm also disabled on one leg. I am no match. If he, it would have. I was genuinely terrified for my safety.
And while you were cornered and he was obstructing your ability to exit the room, what sort of things was he saying?
He was saying all kinds of things, very demeaning, almost instigating.
Well, let me ask another question. Was he refusing to leave the room?
Yes, he refused to leave the room.
Okay.
I was like screaming and crying and shaking, and he refused to leave the room. I not only asked him to, but then I told him to, and then I screamed at him to, and he didn't actually leave until I felt like I had no other choice, and I felt like I had to defend myself, and I pulled my firearm out of a dresser drawer. Never once did the muzzle point at him. The barrel always stayed at the ground. I was raised on a horse farm, so firearm safety is the top of my priority. That was enough to snap him out of his rage.
Correct. Just
seeing it, and he backed out of my room. Thank God, finally. And I ran over to the door and I locked it.
Okay. And okay, so after that, did you leave the residence?
Yes. So after that, I didn't feel comfortable in my own home. I didn't feel comfortable in my skin. I felt very unsafe. So I left.
About how many days did you go, or did you go to an undisclosed location, like a place he didn't know where you were?
Yes, I went to an undisclosed location. I feared so much for my safety that I didn't even tell the people closest to me where I was, because I knew he would contact them, and he did.
Well, let me ask you, how long did you stay at an undisclosed location?
4 days.
Okay.
From parts unknown.
And did the respondent attempt to try to find you during that time?
Yeah, he contacted my dad. He contacted my friends. He contacted my employer at the time. He contacted every single person who was close to me, and that was the reason why I didn't tell anybody where I was going, because I didn't feel safe and I didn't want them to have to lie for me.
Okay. All right. Did he also contact your psychiatrist?
He did. On January 4th, he contacted my psychiatrist and actually told him a version of the truth that was highly distorted. And my psychiatrist, in return, decided to alter my medications. So he was not only physically violating, but he was also mentally violating my health, my space, my peace. And I had been on a medication called Lexapro. I'd been stabilized on Lexapro for a few years. And because of him, contacting and lying to my doctor. My doctor weaned me off, and now we are still, troubleshooting what works for me now.
Let me stop you. Without getting too deep into medical history stuff, because this is live streamed, you mentioned earlier that you had a panic attack. Is that something you've experienced before?
Yes, ma'am.
So when you say panic attack, you don't mean you were anxious, you mean a medical event?
Yes. I have been diagnosed.
Okay. All right. Let's backtrack a little bit. In your petition, you said that there have been other incidents of violence. Can you tell the court about another incident that happened in the past?
Yes. So we were doing a pressure washing job. It was late this past summer. We were doing a pressure washing job, and we got into an argument about what, I have no idea anymore. But he got, I was panic pacing because he gets me so riled up. And I went to just walk away from the argument, simply just walk away. And he grabbed my arm and on my one leg swung me around to where I was facing him and wouldn't let me walk away from the argument.
Okay. And when you say on your one leg, I know you mentioned that you have a disability. So are you an amputee? Do you only have one leg?
Yes, ma'am. I'm a below the knee amputee.
Okay. And so if he spins you around, is that the same as, does that have the same effect as it would with someone who has two legs, or is it different?
Oh, it's very different. Walking on a prosthetic is one of the worst high heels I've ever put on. Your gaits change, because your body weight is different. So your body compensates in different ways. Your brain.
Good to see everybody. Real quick, I understand the part about she has the missing leg and everything, but what is the whole, because she has one leg, she spins around different than people with two legs? I don't understand that part exactly, but at least we do understand now she does have a prosthetic leg, and it's like a high heel shoe. So this is definitely one for the books.
Brain, fires in different manners. And sometimes, because of my traumatic brain injury, my brain doesn't fire quick enough, efficiently enough. And I absolutely am at risk of getting very hurt.
Okay. All right. Are there any other incidents that you think the court should consider for this protective order?
Not good.
I think I'm sure I could come up with some things. I'm sorry. I'm just.
That's okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's okay. Let me ask you one final question, and that is, maybe one final line of questioning. Are you seeking this protective order because you're in fear for your safety?
Yes, ma'am. He works in professional wrestling, so do I. We do go along the same roads together, and I have seen him go out of his way to what they call take a liberty on another wrestler.
I'm sure before she gets into this whole wrestling terminology, is she still a wrestler right now? Because she says she is a professional wrestler. So is she wrestle? I mean, I've seen one-legged wrestlers before. There was a one-legged wrestler some years ago. But I'm wondering, does she wrestle with the prosthetic leg and this, that, and the other? And she's about to talk about him taking liberties with another wrestler. That means he is being far too rough, taking advantage of them, and, being really stiff, working stiff, hitting them hard and things like that. So I guess she's about to tell us he's taking advantage of people in the ring, exposing the business.
Basically intentionally hurt somebody that trusted their body to them.
Objection, Your Honor. That's hearsay.
It's not hearsay, but it is outside the scope of this hearing. So I'll sustain your objection, just not for the reason it was made.
I'll ask a more directive question. Are you in fear for this? why don't you tell the court about some of the things you've had to do to protect yourself from the respondent?
I've had to leave my home. I've had to essentially disappear. I've had to isolate myself from people that love me and that care about me to keep myself and them safe. I've had to, you know, he's slandered me in so many different ways. I've had to, you know, defend myself, even though, like, I don't know.
I think we can leave it there.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. I think that's it for my questions, Judge.
All right. So, sir, the way, by and large, what this hearing is here to decide is whether or not there have been acts of family violence committed that justify the issuance of a protective order. And so this is the portion of the proceedings where you have the opportunity to ask her questions. If you wish to ask her questions, you can suggest those to the court, and if I believe they are appropriate and helpful, then we will go forward with them and she can answer. If it's something that's outside the scope of the hearing or otherwise evidentiarily inappropriate, then we may not ask the question. Is there any question that you think the court should ask of this witness?
Thank
Yes,
you
Your
very
Honor.
much, Jen. Thank you.
From the night she's speaking of, I did surrender in a video. I'd like to show it before I ask my next 3 questions.
Ooh, a
Is
video.
there any way I could do that, sir? Your Honor.
When did you send that in?
They were sent in and accepted into evidence earlier this morning.
Okay. Madam Clerk, are you able to see those?
Yes, Judge.
All right. We're going to set up a screen share. And so you're asking to play the video so you can then ask questions about it?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
Video is always a great equalizer. Gives a way better idea.
Is
A
this
lot
what
of
you were
this is a
looking for?
mess.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
A lot going on in this video. Don't know exactly what we're going to see, so viewer discretion again, once again, advised. A little bit of picking up needs to be done. Slight bit.
Becky, look how you're acting.
Get the fuck out of my room.
You're trying to grab a knife you just said to stab me.
Get the fuck out of my room.
Why are you grabbing a knife?
Put the camera away and get the fuck out of my room. I no longer want to speak to you.
Why are you still doing
I do not want to speak to you. Get out of my room.
Then what was in that tissue right there?
Absolutely fucking nothing. It's what I used to wipe my goddamn glasses off when it was fucking raining. Fuck you. I did not do any goddamn blow. Get
All right. Again, the drugs are coming back into this. Everybody, again, sorry for the language.
the fuck out of my room. Get the fuck out of my goddamn room.
All right. That's pretty damning. Not what I expected, but we'll see. See how it plays out.
Okay.
Wow.
The first question I'd like to ask after watching that video is when that video was shot, I believe there was a moment before that where you actually left your room to go to my room to get your space heater, and I helped you carry your walker. If you weren't allowed to leave your own space, how come we both left your room to go grab your space heater and your walker?
Carrie Von Erich, Texas tornado.
Ms. Reynolds, it looks like you've gone back on mute. So, right, were you able to hear the question he asked?
Yes. Will you reiterate that in a more direct question, please?
Sure. Before that video was shot, you had stated in your before the video was shown, in your statement, you said that I came in, barged into your room, yelling and screaming, and kept you in that. Before that video, there was a moment where you left the room, where you told me to move, and I moved to the side so you could go to my room to pick up your space heater, and I carried your walker into your bedroom. The walker that can be seen in the video next to your possum tree, correct?
Yeah, that was before things escalated,
They say a
and
possum
before
tree?
I ended up having a panic attack, and before you, yeah, it was before you started pushing me up against the wall, up against the
So
bed.
how long would you estimate there was between those two portions of this event?
Let me see. I was cornered for about 3 to 5. Things escalated over a matter of probably about 15. So it probably, it was probably about 20 minutes before.
Your Honor, I'd like to go back to the statement she made earlier, if we could have him read them back. I believe she had stated that I came into her room yelling and screaming immediately and blocking her path.
Well, that's argumentative. It's not a question. This is the portion of the question.
Okay.
So what questions do you have for her besides that?
The next part, when in the argument would you say that video was taken?
It was before I locked you out.
Asked and answered. She literally just said 20 minutes after, they went to get the space heater. Things escalated for 15 minutes.
Oh.
I mean,
Okay.
I guess.
And how
he asked, so are both parties in agreement that this was more or less the end of it, or that portion of the exchange was, I'm sorry, not the video portion. You know what? It's been a long day. All right. We've been doing this since 9. It is 5. She's provided enough of a timetable for her version of the event, so we can move to the next question.
Okay. You stated that you're a risk, you have balance issues and you're a risk of falling, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you also not a trained professional wrestling referee that goes out and does independent bookings outside of the one company that you trained with? So
yes,
the
and
belief would
those
be
wrestlers are trained to watch out for the referee, and I am much easier to fall over, as in the last Deep South Wrestling show. I barely got nudged by Jacob Johnson. It is on YouTube to see. And I did topple over.
okay. And the incident that you said happened with the pressure washing job where I grabbed your wrist and spun you around. Which hand did I grab? Did I grab you with?
What do you mean?
Which hand did I use?
Your hands?
Yes.
I don't know. Probably your right. I don't remember.
Okay. You had also stated that I had an altercation with another professional wrestler in a ring. Do you remember me ever having any injuries coming out of a situation like that?
That was irrelevant when it was asked, and so going into it now would not be appropriate either.
Right.
Generally speaking, just for both parties' information, sometimes the analogy I use, these cases are between one party and another party only. Whoever you can think of as the most dangerous person in the world, whether that's if you want to do Al Capone or if you're into true crime and want to pick your favorite serial killer, they can move in next door to you and you don't have any grounds for a protective order in Georgia unless they start doing things to you. And so we'll focus from here on interactions between the two of you.
Fair enough, Your Honor. You had also stated that you felt the need to go into hiding after the events of the morning of New Year's Eve, correct?
Yeah, I went.
Thanks,
I
Polly.
disappeared. I felt like I had to. I felt like I had no other option.
Okay.
I didn't feel safe. I wasn't safe in my own home. I didn't feel comfortable in my skin.
And at no point were you up the block in the East Atlanta Village?
So
Oh,
she
sure.
said that she went to an undisclosed location, which means it's a location she chose to keep private from you. And you know, not to be sarcastic about it, because I truly don't intend it that way, but her testimony was that she went to a place that she believed you didn't know, and she's entitled to leave the answer at that, whether that's a place you think is close by or far away.
Fair enough, sir. Fair enough, Your Honor. Did you also not send me a text message saying that you were leaving for the night?
That I was leaving? Yeah, I did. I
Okay.
gave you that courtesy. I still felt obliged to you. I still, even
Okay.
though you made me feel like this, I still felt some sort of loyalty, unfortunately.
Okay. Next question. You said I reached out to your father, your friends, and your boss. Would it be more fair to say that your father contacted me because he couldn't get a hold of you, asking if we were still coming to dinner? And that's when I started calling around looking for you 2 days later?
I don't understand the question.
One more time.
Would it be a fair statement to say that on New Year's Day, perhaps your father had contacted me asking if me and you were coming to his house for dinner, and that's why I started calling around looking for you?
So she can't say why you did what you did or what was in your head, but we can reframe this. So do you know whether Miss Reynolds, do you know whether your father tried to contact the respondent at all?
I think he did. I think because we had plans to go over for New Year's dinner. So I think
I was
whenever,
right.
and like I said, I isolated myself completely. So I think my dad reached out. I don't know that factually. I don't have, his phone in front of me or anything.
Okay. So she doesn't know directly, but she says that's certainly possible. So what other questions do you have?
Thank you.
Is it fair to say on the video that we see the only one yelling and screaming and striking is you?
Objection. The video speaks for itself. I mean, we saw it.
Yeah. I mean, that can be parsed in argument.
This is the only courtroom I know she
Fair
can get
enough.
away with that in.
Okay, no further.
All right. Since Ms. Jordan has told us that will be her only witness, this is going to be the point that we pause. We do have a consent agreement on the jail case, so I'll need a few minutes to review that with both parties, and then when we return, sir, if you wish to give your testimony, you'll have the opportunity.
Of course,
to do
for
so at
time, that
We're
is
gonna
not
place you both
going to
in the
be.
waiting room just for a handful of minutes. If anyone
It's
needs
not going
to
to be the issue.
Get a glass of water, stretch, whatever.
Everybody, get a glass of water and stretch real quick, real fast. We've learned a lot here. The guy is very intimidating just from looking at him, right? You look at him and he seems to be an intimidating big dude. But his video was pretty good. Why is this doing this? Hold on a second. Hold on. Wait a minute. It's jumped into the middle of this video. There we go. But yeah, make sure you do. I'd love to see that. Tell me who you're believing so far, by the way. Get it going. Let me know, because I have a lot of questions.
Hopefully we can get there.
I don't know if I believe
we've
her
pressed
100%.
the admit button for Miss Reynolds, and it just says joining ... and it's sitting there. So I don't think it's anything in her hands, but
I think sometimes when you have to click on the recording
Zoom tutorials,
requirement,
get ready.
to approve recording.
the got it or
Yeah.
leave meeting.
Sometimes if people don't click on the got it.
Well, we got to listen to them talk about that. Make sure if you're new here, we have a lot of TPOs, a lot of court cases. If you enjoy a really good atmosphere as far as like a great crowd, like the people that are here right now, like Kay and Erica and Matt Weaver, give us a like, give us a subscribe. We're not cut and dry like some other channels might be. We might not be your cup of tea, but we welcome you here and we'd like to have you part of our family. Shall you?
Just yet for Miss Reynolds. I'll send her a message.
Good old YouTube. Knocking it down to 360p.
She's got to tap the screen and then she's got to press the bottom on the left-hand corner.
This guy's taking over now. He's running court.
Here we go.
Yeah, I guess I will throw up a poll.
All right, Ms. Reynolds, we're going to resume with the respondent's case in just a moment, but as I glanced at my notes, I had a question that I forgot to clarify before we took our break. And you mentioned, you discussed an incident involving power washing and whatnot. I did not get a date. I did not write down a date next to that, even though you may have given me one, but approximately when did that happen?
I didn't have a specific date. It was late summer.
Okay, yeah, and that's a perfectly reasonable window to give at this juncture.
Pressure washing
that's all that
season
we
for
look
sure.
for. Sometimes people feel pressure to go through their phones and say, "Oh, it was the 15th, not the 17th." That is not time well spent. So, late summer just gives me enough of a time frame to understand where it is and the chronology of things. So, sir, this would be your portion of the case to present evidence or testimony. Understanding any statements you make can be used against you in other proceedings potentially. If you intend to testify, I'd ask that you raise your right hand for me now. And do you swear that any statements you make to the court today will be the truth under penalty of perjury?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. You can put your hand down. What would you like to tell us today in relation to this case?
Well, simply put, Your Honor, I'm being lied about here. I've never put my hands on Becky. I never would put my hands on Becky. I've never put my hands on a woman. I've been in martial arts training since I was 8 years old. I was in the Explorers NYPD police program by the time I was 12. I've been a bail bondsman. I've been a mixed martial arts fighter, and I've been a professional wrestler.
It's been everything.
I do not have a criminal history of violence against men or women because I know better than to put my hands on people. She was talking about the pressure washing job being in late summer. Well, I remember in late summer, and then she said it was with my right hand I did it. Your Honor, I can show it like this. If you see my hand here, there's knuckles here, but there's no knuckle here. I had an injury that summer, and with this hand here also, on these fingertips, my right hand, the same one she said I grabbed her with, there's straight bone through here. If you listen, this is tapping a normal table with my left hand. This is me tapping with my right. It's straight bone. I have no grip with this hand.
Okay.
I haven't had grip with this hand in close to 10 years. I couldn't have grabbed her and flung her around. What this came down to was money. I was paying all her bills. Miss Reynolds refuses to get a job. Miss Reynolds is in the middle of trying to get disability because she does not want to work.
Oh, let's get
disability. But then I had another video that I also had submitted to evidence that I would like to show the court right now, if that would be okay with you guys.
Last one's a bombshell.
Titled
video 2.
All right, let's see if a member of our team can screen share that.
And while the court's pulling that up, I might object to relevant. I mean, I don't know what's in the video, but if it's strictly about issues about finances, I mean, that's certainly not
no
on the petition.
Balance. This goes with the balance issues and her saying that she can fall over very easily, things of that nature. I'm just trying to build a standard to that. She's not.
I'm sorry, Judge. We only have one video, and I think the other exhibit is text messages.
I believe I sent it around the time it may have gotten caught. Is there any way to check?
Yes. Did you get a
While she's checking, thank you, Matt Weaver, for the 10 amazing memberships. He gifted. If you want gifts, you got to turn gifts on. It's a very simple thing. I'm sure anybody could tell you. And Gary, I was trying not to blow everybody's ears out, or people get mad sometimes when you play the Hallelujah, but sometimes you just got to do it.
response saying that we received it, or it was too long or anything?
I'm looking to see right now. No, I did not get a response from it.
Okay, so
it was only a video that was, in my estimation, equal in time to the same video as I sent you guys earlier.
Judge, I'm not saying anything, but I will double check.
This video must be something else if he's working hard to get it presented like this.
Also, in the evidence were photos, which she states also how after that incident, she had to separate herself from me, and she was very worried and fearful for her life. But in there is a text message from January the 3rd, where you can see she's actually being apologetic towards me because I was the one who was victimized that night. I was the one who was assaulted. I didn't yell at Rebecca. I didn't grab her. I didn't throw her against any cabinets. That's not who I am as a person. And in the text message, which is also in evidence right now, it says, I can understand if you're not ready to talk yet. But she was asking for rent money. The fact is, this wasn't the first time Rebecca Reynolds has hit me. She has hit me on 3 separate occasions. And each time it's been under the guise of she had been drinking alcohol to a point of blacking out.
Objection, Your Honor. We're here on the petitioner's petition. Any incidents outside of what was listed here wouldn't be relevant to the question before the court today. The respondent, of course, has the opportunity to file his own petition if he feels he needs protection.
Right, but to issue this order against him, I'm required to find that he's been the predominant aggressor in acts of family violence. And so the determination of that requires an examination of the history, potentially in either direction. So, sir, you can tell us about these incidents. And as I mentioned earlier, I don't necessarily need hard dates, but what I say is whatever comes into your mind
There's a good chance of that.
is the way you would pinpoint it is probably the right answer. So if it's last summer, or if it was early this year, or if it was last week, whatever that is
I have a pretty good reference on the dates. The first time she got drunk and she spit on me while I was driving.
Ooh.
My buddy Lorenzo was in the car with me. She was blackout drunk, and then she punched me in the. That was around the winter of last year winter, not this past winter, not this winter that we're currently in, but last year's winter. In the springtime, she wanted us to take mushrooms, and me and her to have a threesome with another one of her friends, Jerry Mize.
Wow. I did not see that coming. That was, I understand. It seemed like they had separate bedrooms and things like that. She owns a possum tree, very dirty room. And now we're going with she likes having threesomes. We've seen this before. It's a play. Maybe it's the truth. Maybe it's a lie. I don't know. Becky, you like that, Becky? Getting wild.
And when I did not want to interact in the sexual act, she proceeded to get angry when I did not make it okay for her to have sex with another woman. So she punched me in the face and called me a piece of shit.
Oh, it was another woman? The name sounded like, I thought she said Jerry or something like that. Oh, never mind. 2 women? So he didn't want it? Dude.
Shit. And the last time she hit me would have been on New Year's Eve. On 3 separate occasions, she's hit me. And to be honest with you, Your Honor, I haven't made a thing about it because at the end of the day, I felt like she was going through a tough time still from her motorcycle accident. And maybe these were just anger things that were coming out. It's so much an issue and our worry for her and the danger she is to herself and to me that her mentor, Joe Hamilton Jr., Nick Patrick, reached out to me.
Referee Nick Patrick?
And we had spoken to...
Objection to hearsay.
Yeah, you're not able to talk about...
She opened the door because this is why we contacted the psychologist, Your Honor. I'm just setting a standard for what she spoke about earlier about contacting the psychologist.
Right, but she didn't... So here's the difference. She talked about changes that were made to her medication or to her treatment, whatever it was, through that person, which is different than introducing out of court statements. So you're talking about a conversation you had with Mr. Patrick, but Mr. Patrick is not here to be questioned about any statements that he made or how he came to know that information or what it means. And so that's different than, acknowledging that a conversation took place is different than the statements themselves.
Okay, understood. I have left her alone ever since New Year's Eve. The only contact she had asked me, as there's a text message form there, for rides to wrestling shows and to training. And I told her that I didn't want to be in the same car as her. One time, finally, my mother made me give her a ride. I know how that sounds, but my mother made me give her a ride to the car. And I asked her to please sit in the back seat of the car so we could have as much distance as we could. And she still proceeded to yell at me in public because I did not want to pay for her extra carton container of soup out of my own money because she wanted to be able to buy cigarettes. I've stayed away. My only contact.
She's kind of laughing.
Night
Look at her laugh.
Until the order of before the order of protection was when I'd cook dinner for my mother, I would cook dinner for her too. And I would hand her a plate and I wouldn't say anything. I would just hand her the plate and then walk away because I wasn't going to let her starve. She is a sick person. She needs help. She knew we were leaving. She knew I was done paying all her bills. And this was her act to get me out sooner so it would cost me money because she was upset that I wasn't going to be there no more to pay her bills. Because she decided to rely on me for money until she could get her money from disability. Did we ever get the video by any chance?
He's calling for the video.
Second video.
No, we did not receive the second video. Like I said, the only thing we have are the text messages.
Okay. Well,
I want to see these text messages.
Can't show that piece. The other part is this. Like I said, I've stayed away. I know she will walk up to the block to go to the bars and party and do all that. She said she's separated from her friends and everything, but she goes out with her friends every night and that's fine. But I've tried to do my own thing. And the problem is that she shows up to events I'm working at that she's not booked at. She's not a part of. A good example would be this past January, I was booked to be the producer and director of a wrestling show in Rome, Georgia. And she proceeded to show up on her own. And she proceeded to stand backstage in the locker room in the middle of a small locker room when she wasn't even an invited guest to be at that building that night. So much so, she was reprimanded by our boss for showing up at this show. And basically, I'm just trying to do my own thing and I'm trying to stay away from her. And I've done a pretty good job with it because I've done everything I could to try and help her. And it's turned around on me into this now. And, trying to tell you these stories about how she's delicate and she loses her balance and all this, and that I grabbed her by the wrist. But But you could just go on her social media and you see video of her wrestling 200-pound women running up the turnbuckles like something you see in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Okay, that's pretty funny. I mean, I don't think she's scared of him at all. I get that feeling that she's a pretty bad chick, you know, as far as like being able to hold her own and stuff. She's a professional wrestler. She's, you know, she's doing all this stuff. But, you know, the threesome stuff, it's whatever. That was irrelevant. I'm sure she did get mad because it didn't happen, but I hope this guy's video gets played. And I didn't know Law Talk with Mike was so into threesomes or thruples. Learn something new every day.
But she's trying to tell you that I can knock her over. But I never even touched her. I'm not a woman beater. I've never been a woman beater. I have been assaulted in this case. It's embarrassing for me to say that, being 6 foot, 300 pounds. And I know she's 5'3", 120. But the truth is, I'm the one who's been assaulted here.
Well, you've made references to text messages, and we have not.
They were the photo.
Yeah, so I think those came in. Are we able to look at those since he's made reference to them?
PDF, and yeah, in there you'll see the money I've spent over the past months just supporting her. Thousands upon thousands of dollars. Text messages where she's asking me for money to pay bills in its complete form.
Yeah, Gary.
Right there is some text messages right there. I'm sorry, I'm trying to read them. I can't see.
Make them big.
Is there a way for me to? I believe that's, what's the date on that one? What time do you need me to be ready by tomorrow? That's the one I was telling you about after the incident. If this is somebody who was so scared and fearful for her life that she pointed her gun at me, then why is she asking me for a ride to a wrestling show she's not booked at? And when she's told there clear as day she's not booked, and she says she figured she wasn't, she's still showing up. That's not me instigating anything. This is her instigating.
So does this jump? Does the communication cease basically between the 6th and the 11th, and then it picks back? Or is this? Is there a separate break here that's not in?
I'm sorry. I'm trying to see what that one is.
So did you want me to go to page 2?
The screen on, not yet. So the screen on the left is from January 6th. The screen on the right is January 11th. So
that was the one on the right is something about Instagram. That one doesn't matter. I'm sorry about that. It was on the left I was trying to send as itself because I had to transfer everything over to PDA. So the January 6th one, as you can see right there at the top, it says, what time do you need me to be ready by for the show tomorrow? And I tell her I don't want to put her in an uncomfortable situation giving her a ride to the show. This is a person who was in fear of her life, but she's asking me for rides to shows. You can't have it both ways.
So, and so I can understand the context of what all is going on here. So what is, I know in certain small business operations in all fields, there's people are the Swiss Army knife. They wear many hats. So what is your job or role or title if there is one that can?
Okay, I am the producer. I am the director. I am I'm the guy who goes between different promotions, getting them to work together to present the Deep South Wrestling brand. So I guess I'm a chief brand officer in that same role.
Don't go crazy.
I'm a performer on the shows, although I have been very limited on that role here in the recent months.
So I'm inferring something from these
Cage.
text messages, but I don't know if I'm inferring that correctly or not. So let me just ask, do you have some role the same way a manager would at a retail outlet in shift assignments or work?
Yes and no. It still all has to be cleared by Joseph Hamilton Jr., also known as Nick Patrick.
So you may come up with a slate and then submit it to a higher up for
So
approval,
much
and
Nick
they might
Patrick
give it a
talk.
thumbs up or make changes,
Yes.
for example.
And Nick, who made this change, that was on this one.
Okay.
Nick was the one her off the card because she said her leg was hurting when she went to training and she couldn't go down to make pinfall counts or anything. And obviously, you have to be able to do that in order to perform on shows.
All right. So I think that's all the questions I have for this page. Were there other pages of these messages? I think they all went in as one big attachment.
Yeah,
there's messages you wanted to show.
There's the Cash App showing the money, the amounts of thousands of dollars I've paid for her for all this time. You know, I was paying all her bills. I think that text message might have some relevance too. I have to see it. Yeah, that's the one where she's asking me to pay the electric bill, I believe, that I had paid the electric bill for her.
So what was the window of time that you two lived together?
Your Honor, I've been paying her bills since beginning of late spring.
No, but what was the period of time? Like, did you two share an apartment or home of some sort?
Pretty much I was paying my rent and her rent since May. And I was paying her utilities and I was buying her groceries. And
okay, did she live in a different location prior to May?
She was living in that same house. I was living in a different location, but I was still paying all her bills. I was paying her portion of the bills. Then her roommates moved out. And that's when I moved in with my mother because I got tired of paying my rent and her rent and my utilities and her utilities and my groceries and her groceries.
Yes,
I was paying for everything for everyone, Your Honor.
Can't trust him.
Okay, and so at the time the petition was filed, you two were living together at the location that we saw in the video earlier.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
And I mean, technically speaking, we had been living together. It's just we either spent the night at her place or at my place every day.
Two places, but always together. Understood. Okay.
Yes. And
yeah, that's basically what that broke down to.
Page 3 of this
He's
exhibit,
keeping her from working.
because I think you were talking about that a moment ago.
Yeah, the left-hand side, that's her requesting me to make payments for the utility bills. What's the other one?
Some high bills.
Yeah, I think that's the one I meant to send her. Was that, hey, I know you're not ready to talk. That's the one. Like I said, Your Honor, that was what I was talking about earlier about January. You know, she was fearful for her life and she ran away, she said, for 4 or 5 days. But I'm sorry. Everybody keeps trying to call me. I apologize. We have a show coming up March 31st, and
getting that plug in for that show,
Can
baby.
you guys still hear me?
Get your tickets now. It's going to sell out.
Okay. You know, just like I was saying, you know, this wasn't done because I actually assaulted her. This is done out of spite because I've been paying her bills all this time. And I was done paying the bills and she knew I was moving out and I was taking my mother and she was dependent on it. If we go all the way to page, let's see, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you'll see where just the other day, March the 3rd, she made a charge on Uber Eats using my mother's debit card for $41.55.
Wow.
That Uber Eats charge was to the address 1380 Glenwood Avenue, Southeast, Apartment A. My mother does not live there no more. I don't live there. We moved out before May 1st. And she's still using my mother's debit card to order things on Uber Eats.
Nobody's gonna say relevance. Okay. I like that he plugged his wrestling show coming up. Good to get that in. Why not? 260 of you here. Good to see everybody. Make sure you like the video. Is this a work? Is this a work shoot? Perhaps? Are we just promoting, baby? Is that all we're doing?
All right. Ms. Jordan, do you have questions?
I do, Your Honor. I don't want to go down a line of questioning that's for something that's irrelevant to you. So I just want to maybe gauge first. So we've got something to say about the finances, but if that's not really factoring into
Best
the
idea.
question, then I can skip it.
That's for business.
Yeah, not really.
Got it. Okay. Thank you, Judge. All right, then let me ask a couple clarifying questions then, sir. All right, I think we've established that you were living with the petitioner sort of and up until the point that the protective order was filed. Isn't it true that the two of you tried to resolve this between yourselves by going to a counselor and trying to sort of mediate how you were going to extricate yourselves from each other's lives?
Yes, we had agreed to where I would pay $1,000 for my bedroom and $900 for my mother's bedroom, and she would pay the rest of that and then share the utility cost. Since that's happened, she's never paid $1.
So isn't it true that the any contact that she got from you from the point of this incident was about financial issues between the two of you regarding your shared residence or potentially her expenses, however, but primarily financial. Isn't that right?
I wasn't in charge of her finances no more. I was just in charge of taking care of my finances.
But that's what she was reaching out to you about. Isn't that right?
I'm sorry?
That's what she was reaching out to you about. Isn't that right?
She attempted to reach out to me on more than one occasion, face to face, about other things, and I told her to please text me if she wanted to speak to me. I did not want to speak to her person to person at all.
Okay.
I wanted to protect myself and have everything in text message.
That's not true.
Text messages that you showed is primarily about the rent needs to be paid, these expenses need to be paid, that of that nature. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Her money was tied up in other things, right?
And I'll just ask this one other question on this line. Isn't it true that when your mother moved in, you and the petitioner had an arrangement that she was going to help take care of your mother and that you were going to provide the expenses, pay those expenses for the house and the utilities and that sort of thing?
The original agreement was she had to be there for my mother, help her wake up in the morning because she has COPD. So she had to be there for my mother when she woke up, make sure she was breathing. Everything was good with her COPD because COPD attacks happen in the morning, make her breakfast, make her lunch, and then I would take care of dinner. And then we were supposed to share the cleaning obligations. She did not live up to that end of the agreement. You can't live up to the end of the agreement when you disappear for a day or two at a time whenever you go out on a bender. So
let me just stop you real quick, because my question is, part of that agreement was you were going to pay those expenses. So that was part
yes.
Of okay.
Yes, and I did expenses
Good
until
point.
We broke up and we spoke to the mediator, and it was proven that she could no longer fulfill her obligation.
So up until January 11th, when you talked to that mediator, that was the agreement you were operating under.
Well, she broke that verbal agreement 3 specific times before January 1st. So we had the agreement was off the table, but I still lived up to my end and paid the rent and paid the bills up till January. All of the bills, yes.
All right. Judge, I don't think I have anything further.
Who's that? Out of nowhere.
All right. Each side has the opportunity to make a brief argument. You may hear that called a summation. It's just a chance to accent certain facts that you think are important or telling, or to state a synthesized version of your case. Since it's the petitioner's case, Ms. Jordan can choose whether she goes first or last. What would you like to do?
Judge, I'll reserve for final close.
All right, sir, you've just given your testimony. Do you wish to make a closing argument or a summation at this time?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, go ahead.
Look, I'm not a woman beater. I've never been in my life, and I never will be. I don't hit women, even when I'm paid to do it. I don't do it. Miss Reynolds has very serious
That
mental
didn't sound
health
good.
issues, drug addiction issues, alcoholism issues, and rage issues. This is just another version of it where she wants to hide from it. Her father's worried about her. Her mentor's worried about her.
Objection.
I do, and I'm worried about her. But I can't do anything else no more. And my mom's worried about her, even though she went as far as to steal from my mother the other night.
Oh, God.
Becky, I'm sorry that this has all happened.
All right, we're not going to address the parties directly through.
Okay.
through
I'm
the
sorry. Okay. I'm sorry, Miss Reynolds. Is that better, Miss Reynolds?
No,
Can I do it that?
that's
It's a good
you
chance.
don't talk with each other. It's not even in the
Allegedly.
I guess, supervision of the court, if you want to call it that. But
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
The fact that it's gone this far and I've had to deal with this and be this upset really hurts me, because I, simply put, I have not assaulted this woman. I've been assaulted on numerous occasions by her. I've been used, I've been manipulated, I've been cheated on, I've been physically hit, I've been physically struck. And it's embarrassing to have to talk about this all in public. It's embarrassing for me as a 41-year-old man to admit that I've been abused by a woman. And
Is he gonna cry?
I want this to be over with. Like I've shown, I have the proof is she hit me in the video. I'm not yelling at her. I don't have her cornered. You never see in any of those videos me pushing her. There's no videos or photographs of me hitting her or bruises or anything, because they don't exist, because I've never done it.
Just her.
None of that exists. But what does exist is people who have seen her spit in my face and hit me, and people who've seen her cheat on me, and people who've seen her use me for my finances and use me for everything that she can. And we're here today, and I'm hurt, man. I'm hurt right now.
Hurt, brother.
I don't know. I want this to be over, but I'm not going to be blackmailed. I don't know how much money Becky was trying to ask me for through the lawyer earlier to make this all stop, but I'm not going to be blackmailed into some money that I don't owe. I don't owe her money, and I'm not going to just give her money to make something go away.
Look at her eyes.
yeah, that's not one. You don't talk about settlement discussions, and two, these aren't the kind of things that get resolved with money. They pretty much get resolved with agreements to
Trying to pay her off.
So, all right, Ms. Jordan, what do you have?
Thanks, Your Honor. I was going to make several objections, but I trust the court to siphon out the things that were in the last argument that were, speculation, not proven, not facts that were in evidence at the time. The thing that is before the court, though, are the allegations that were in the petition. So he says that there hasn't ever been any bruising or hits. That actually wasn't, that no hits that were in the allegation. The basis for this is, the unlawful restraint by refusing to let her leave her room. The video that you saw, Your Honor, showed that is exactly what happened. There's a recording of her screaming for him to leave and him not leaving. That is the basis for the order, or that is the underlying basis for the protective order, or one basis for it. She's not alleging that he hit her in that moment. She's alleging that basically her petition is based on the fact that he was in the room, refused to leave, kept her cornered so that she couldn't leave, and that his action, that by the look in his body, like the demeanor in his body and the words he was saying at the time would amount to an assault, though that's not a contact assault. It's a words and acts that would lead a reasonable person to fear for your safety. She testified that she is in fact in fear for her safety. You've also heard that this about this past incident where there was a grab. Again, it's not a push, or it's not a hit argument. It's that his grab would amount to a battery, in that it is contact that a reasonable person would find offensive or intimidating. And on that basis, we're seeking for the protective order. The financial piece, is not really an issue at the court. There was communication following the incident itself, but as you saw, that was all related to them extricating from each other's lives while they were still very much intertwined. And the petitioner was completely dependent on the respondent for her finances. So no part of that should indicate her degree of fear. It should indicate her degree of desperation for needing for rent to be paid and for expenses that she had relied on him to pay to be paid. So as I said, Your Honor, the question before the court is whether he's committed acts of family violence against her. There's been multiple incidents that the court can rely on to issue that order, and we'd ask that it be granted.
All right, moment of truth, kids.
All right. There's certainly there's a lot to unpack here when we have testimony from the parties through a period of time, and I want to kind of level set about a few things. There are a lot of things that can get you a protective order that don't involve putting your hands on someone. What we are tasked with is figuring out how those things played out, and if the answer is that they did, also figuring out whether they constitute an offense that would be an act of family violence, which would involve the respondent being a primary aggressor. And the law, and having competing claims lays out, at least 7 things for an officer to consider, and another 13 that they're supposed to evaluate in the context of a police report that they prepare if there were a report. I know that's not what we're dealing with, but those guidelines provided to law enforcement are the same kinds of things that we look at in this court.
Yes.
At the time of the incident that the video was shared, there's a shared residence. It can't be in that context a trespass, even if she wanted him to leave. And so do I believe that it rises to the level of a false imprisonment? I think I have to say no. While I understand her state of mind in that context, I don't think there's an affirmative act so much as a passive remaining or resistance on his part. And let me be clear, I certainly don't think in the context of the setting in her room, the disparity between the parties in terms of size and physical capability, do I watch that video and think that she's a predominant aggressor or has committed a crime? No, I don't. But do I look at what was going on and think that that constitutes a simple assault under Georgia law with Miss Reynolds as the victim? And that is the question that I really have to answer. And I don't think I can say yes to that. I don't think that I can say that she was in fear of, certainly there's nothing in the video that shows an attempt to injure. That's one type of assault. The other type of assault is placing someone in reasonable apprehension of immediately receiving a violent injury. And I think that there is enough evidence from the testimony that's been given in the record today by both parties that I can't find that an act of family violence exists. What I'm about to say is editorializing, but I'm going to editorialize. And what I'll say is this.
Here comes editorial.
there
That's
are
a
little
no
things
for the
that you
people in the
notice in
back.
these hearings. And even though my ruling is my ruling, because I think it's what I have to do, there are signs of the type of power and control dynamics here
He's very
and some
chill.
of the interactions I've seen that worry me. And I think that I am duty bound in my role as a judge to rule the way that I've ruled today. But what has been made clear, if everyone is being honest today, is that each of you wants to be left alone by the other, and each of you wants to go on your own way peaceably. And what I say to make it as clear as possible in these cases is that I have never said no to a protective order, but I say not yet. And what that means and how this will be reflected in the record is what's called a dismissal without prejudice. Protective orders, issues of family violence are in many, many ways colored by past interactions between parties. And so the door is never closed to discussing things that have already been discussed if more things happen and they need to be discussed again. This court is here and this court is ready for that should that day come. What I hope is that when I say what I've said, that that's heard and that these parties, I don't know if I even want to say coexist, but I know that to some extent you are in the same circles at a minimum, but that each of you can continue to live the life you want to live without interference. And whether that is verbally, professionally, or otherwise, I have no doubt, especially now that Miss Reynolds has Miss Jordan's information should she need her, if there is conduct that should follow from this, it's not often that somebody feels emboldened by the dismissal of a protective order or by one not being granted, but nothing ever prevents the refiling of a protective order if one needs to be filed again with additional information added and then testified to in the record. And so my ruling today is that I am denying this order. I'm wishing the parties the best moving forward separately as best as possible, to the extent that there is an intermediary or someone else who can handle interactions between you two on a professional level. I hope that person can volunteer willingly and capably for the job. We are going to place both of you back in the waiting room.
All right, so that's pretty much it. He said his piece, very long-winded way of saying, hey, you both need to move on with your lives and not worry about one another anymore in these vindictive ways or worrying about all the yimmy. Over on Creedence Bishop Show, a YouTube channel, we have two that we do court cases on. We got a case on YouTube that's nothing but court cases. In Creedence and Bishop Show, that if maybe eventually it'll be Creedence and Mikey show. Over there, we do all kinds of stuff, including court. You guys had a poll question, who you believed. Overwhelmingly, 78% of you said you believe the wrestling guy. 21% of you said you believe the old Becky. So I'm kind of, I definitely believe maybe he might be angry at times or whatever, but I just he didn't come off as being that wild and crazy. I mean, she definitely thank you, Flusha. She's definitely got some anger issues. We saw that in the video. It's not something I made up. Oh, I'll tell Bishop you said thank you. So it's a tough case. I mean, luckily no one was hit or anything like that. I love the whole wrestling aspect of it all. It was a good one. It had a lot of moving pieces. The learning about the possum tree was probably one of my favorite things. I thought it was a tree dedicated to George Jones. Camel Alto. Good to see you. But yeah, I enjoyed hanging out with you guys. I wanted to get on. I know I don't typically get on for a Sunday thing, but because we've had such a great outpouring here recently, a lot of I think it's 1,400 new subscribers in the last 28 days, and a huge majority of those being in the last 14 days. I just wanted to jump on as a thank you to everybody that's been nice enough to understand what we're doing here, get the idea of what's going on, that we're not every other LawTube channel. I think everybody should have their own distinct feel. Being different isn't wrong. A lot of great support, a lot of great comments, and people telling us how much we suck, which, you know, you get some of those too. Well, I can't talk about that. But we'd like to have a good time over here. If you haven't already subscribed and you haven't become at least a subscriber, do so. Give us at least 1 or 2 chances. I had a couple people say that we kind of grew on them like a fungus, which is nice. There were a lot of one-legged jokes, which of course there is. You know, it's one of those things. The LawTube community can and will be a very good place. If you haven't checked out other channels, there's tons of other great court channels like Time Served. Time Served will be going live here in just a little bit. So if you haven't checked out his stuff, go over there and hang out with Phil. Phil tends to say that, oh, thank you, Greg. We inspired him to start his channel. So if that's the case, thank you. You're welcome. Darling Nikki, is that the best? One of the best? It's got to be one of the best strip club songs from Prince. I knew a stripper named Nikki. But again, like, listen to old Laura over in Michigan. He's going to be going live with some more court stuff. So if you're watching this in the future, do me a huge favor. Like the video. Think about subscribing. Hey, you got to be different. There's nothing wrong with being different. Hey, and yesterday, Biggin said he was going to come on with me at some point. Let's see if that happens. That'd be cool. Good old ingrown toenail. Yeah. We'll be back at it again tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern with our daily show. We got a case. And at 4:05. Wow, thank you. 4:05 for We Got a Chase. A lot different than We Got a Case. One's about court cases, one's about car chases. 5 days a week, we do both shows. And sometimes, like today, we do more. All right. I think I can remember camel toes on the end of the monetary monorail, right? Yeah, I can do that. Oh, wow. That's a slap in my face. Only 100 likes. And there's 200 and some of you here. Oh. What's a man to do? What's a man to do? We're both very handsome older gentlemen, so it could work out. We'll see. Could work out. We learned a lot today, good. We learned a lot. Let me thank these guys, and then I'm getting out of here. Now, when I say the guys, I mean the guys in the truck. You guys rock. To all of our friends out on YouTube, we appreciate you being here. We appreciate the likes, the love, the subscribes, the people who are members. Don't forget, we got a members only tomorrow for We Got a Chase, and it's a doozy. I just finished it a while ago, so make sure. Oh, he's got the way better beard. This is as good as it gets. His beard's 1,000,000 times better than me. I can't hold a candle to that beard. Or match. Nothing. Big thank you to Time Served, our YouTube friend. Check him out. Love is a 4-letter word. Yes, it is. Matt, Dreamweaver, dropping those 10 memberships. So crucial. Such a good time. Of course, Gary, KH, Flusha, Mama Trot, and old Camel Toe rounding it out. going to step away. Hope you have a good day. Have fun. Go and play. Make sure you get 2 hours of outdoor time so that you don't have any health issues. Watch some old videos. Yeah, that's it. Until we see you for the next one. Stay healthy. Stay safe. And stay with me, baby. Stay with me. Bye now.
Cocaine.